going to talk a little bit about building an offensive line. My name is Jeremy Valentine. I'm the OC at Chaminade Julienne High School here in Dayton, Ohio. I'm going to talk a little bit about myself very briefly. I'm a Minnesotan. Been living in Ohio since 2012. My reason for moving here is my lovely wife is from the area, and so we are here raising our family. I grew up in a small town in Minnesota. It was nine-man football. Uh, really grew up loving football. That cultural community that comes up with it is something that I have carried with me to this very day. I've been teaching for 9 years. This is my ninth year of teaching. Um, and I'm currently a social studies teacher at Chaminade Julienne, and I've been coaching for 14 years already. It's kind of crazy that that has happened already. I played offensive line in high school and in college. Um, Before I moved to Minnesota, or excuse me, from Minnesota to Ohio, I was a defensive coordinator, and I've been a offense coordinator at Chaminade Julienne for the last 6 years, and I coach with a great guy named Mo Harden, and me and him do it together. So um, I love coaching ball, love talking ball, and just want to share some of my knowledge, some of the things that I've been able to see as I have come through my coaching ranks. All right, so at Chaminade Julienne, we get everybody thinks they're a skill guy. Everyone thinks they're a tight end. Everyone thinks they're a fullback, and we do generally have very good skill players at Chaminade Julienne. But while I've been here, our linemen have been not like what you would think of as big world beater linemen. Um, Sometimes 200 pounds, 190 pounds, right in that range to 220, 230. Not huge guys. We do get some, um, but a lot of times you get those guys that could be a fullback, yeah, could be a tight end, yeah, um, but that fullback quickly becomes a guard, and that tight end quickly becomes a tackle. When I first took over, I actually, when I in 2012, I actually was going to be the freshman coach at Chaminade Julienne, but we ended up having a freshman team, and they needed somebody to run the offense. So I actually coached the JV. So I ran the offense on the JV, and coached the D line was my primary position group. And then the next year I took over as O-line coach in 2013. And when I took over, I realized, wow, these kids kind of make fun of each other. They playing O-line at Chaminade Julienne was not a cool thing, was not a thing. There was no like clique or small group that really somebody aspired to be. So I set out to change that, and I made shirts. And I had our motto on the shirts every year, and that was something that really I still see shirts pop up all the time, going way back. So I'd make a motto every year. um, we used to give out helmet stickers, so pancake stickers were a big one that kids really liked, um, to kind of start making the offensive line cool. The last couple of years we've had a pancake flag, which is kind of embarrassing because we had a rough year last year. I always tell those guys, if you're going to carry that onto somebody else's field, you better be able to back it up. But that is something that they get excited about, something that really motivates them. So I've watched film, and the kid who I think was the most physical, most dominant, will get to carry the flag out the next week. So that is another thing that's kind of made the O-line cool. And now we amongst ourselves, I guess we're cool. We maybe still aren't cool with everybody else, but our own group really likes it, and that kind of brings me to the next point is we've created buy-in. Guys want to finish blocks. Guys want to be physical at the point of attack. Um, Guys want to work really hard in practice on their technique. Um, and just because of that buy-in, it's helped us to be very successful up front with maybe guys that are smaller, guys that aren't going to be getting a Division 1 or Division 2 or even a college scholarship. Um, and they buy in and they see what we're doing, and it's really went a long way for me in how successful we have been offensively the last few years. I will say this: O linemen don't have to be big. They don't, but they do need to be strong. So when I'm looking for kids that I think can play offensive line and maybe won't be another position player, this young man right here, number 57, uh, that was our starting tackle right there. The year we went to the regional finals, ended up losing to Trotwood, who won state that year. But this kid's all of 190, 200 pounds. But as you watch your kids in the weight room, you watch their kids move, you watch the kids show who's showing up, what kid's working. Um, it was this young man who I was like, oh, he squats 400 pounds. All right, he's a strong kid. Um, we had him at tight end. He can't catch very well, so that is a red flag. So we do use a lot of 11 personnel in our offense, and we do throw to the tight end quite a bit. He wasn't quite making it at linebacker, so I kind of took him under my arm and I said, "Hey, you want to be a lineman for me?" And he bought in. He got it. Got a part of it. Started it. It was his senior year, um, and ended up being a big help to us on the O line because he was strong. He worked in the weight room. Um, Pre-COVID, we were about 4 days a week in the weight room. Right now, we're down. We were able to start up again, but we were we that's something that we had really bought into. There's a funny story about how we went to 4 days a week. We were playing Miamisburg, and they had Josh Meyer at the time, Ohio State center, who I believe just declared for the NFL, and he literally picked up one of our linebackers, and his legs were back behind our head, and we said, we gotta do something about this. And I mean, 4 days a week in the weight room, it's a big commitment, but the kids, like I said, they buy into it. They see the results on the field. They see um, success and strength increase, and that's a big part of it. So I made several different tackles out of former tight ends and actually former soccer players. We've an okay soccer program here, but when you think of soccer players, you don't generally think of offensive linemen. But we've had a couple of guys that come over, and coincidentally, they both uh, ended up being left tackles for me. I usually put my quicker tackle at left tackle for whatever reason. Also, if you're left-handed, I put you over at left tackle. But uh, these two young men, they actually were not did not play at the same time, but the one saw how much success the other had and came in. And these guys were not huge. I want to say 210, 220 maybe, but they were just quick. They worked hard. This is him. This is the first soccer player I had right here, number 69. You can see him being physical, trying to finish the block. May or may not be in the back, but that was just something that really helped our program. And these kids worked. They came into the weight room. This young man who I got after him, I was like, oh, he's strong. He's never played football before in his life, and he actually got hurt our first game against Piqua. in 2018, and he got hurt against Piqua, and I think he's probably second team all conference if he doesn't get hurt. He missed quite a few games, but he comes back, and I'll show you some of these blocks. It's just like, holy cow. If this kid would have played all 4 years, who knows? Because he was like a sponge soaking this stuff up. So that's a big part of it. Coach Melanie Red is our strength and conditioning coach. She's a good follow on Twitter as well, and she is phenomenal. She does a phenomenal job. She helps us with. I coach wrestling as well, and helps us in the weight room. And she does a great job getting these guys to the strength level that they need. Um, you know, scheme is important. Obviously, Jimmy's and Joe's win games. I do believe scheme is important. Yeah, I'm not here to tell you that one scheme is better than the other scheme. I believe strongly that you better just know how to coach the scheme that you want to run. Um, we are a huge gap scheme team. I'll kind of pull this up. We're kind of a blend at CJ of Oklahoma and North Dakota State University. We're more, so I would just call us a pro style spread. We do use a lot of RPOs and a quick passing game. We always usually have a tight end H back. We're mostly 11 personnel. Want to run power, and we want to run it in the A gap. But the reason a lot of times people will think, well, power football has to be, everybody has to be huge, and well, it's not true. Um, Much like the wing T guys, I would say it's double teams and angles. So we did run a little bit of outside zone, wide zone last year. We'll see if we go back to it this year, but we are mostly gap scheme and just trying to move guys laterally a lot of times with the A gap power, and then with some of our counter stuff a little bit more vertically, but you're doing it with somebody else. So uh, just having that scheme that you know how to coach helps so much up front. Um, I try and design all my drills to what they're going to do. I won't do a drill in practice if that's not something they're going to use in a game. So we do a lot of double teams, a lot of pulling, and a lot of different styles of pulling. So that helps. Another thing is when you have smaller offensive linemen, they love to pull. Linemen love to pull. Um, I didn't realize that. I wasn't as huge of a I didn't used to be as big of a gap scheme guy as I've become, but linemen love to pull, and that is something that they really will take pride on. Another thing is I really encourage our guys to wrestle. I do coach wrestling, so I'm a little impartial to it, but um, especially young linemen. I had a young man who I believe he was all conference his senior year. Now, if you would have looked at this guy as a sophomore, who I got to come out for wrestling. Um, Great kid, one of my favorites that I've coached, and he came out for wrestling right when I first started coaching here. I've not always coached wrestling at CJ, but one thing that I really saw was after the wrestling season, and he had his sophomore year. I mean, he got his butt kicked about every day. Um, and he won matches, but not very many. He did not have a over 500 record. But I remember watching him stretch for weights, and I could really just see a level of confidence that I did not see with him in the fall. And he ended up being a starter for us for 2 years. So we went 6-4 his junior year, and then we went 9-4 his senior year. So, and he was a big part of it. So just seeing that physicality, you can also see that twerking, and just learning how to use your body is so great for young athletes. Um, I can't stress it enough. Another thing I like it at CJ is that our wrestling coach believes in lifting weights, and Coach Mel, who does our football strength, is also our wrestling coach who does our wrestling coach strength. So that helps. That ends up helping us a lot. So big believer in that. I've seen it year after year. I'll get a sophomore or a freshman kid to come out, and I start to see them get that little more confidence, little more confidence. They get a little stronger. They get a little more flexible, and they end up being starters for us, and not only starters, being dudes. This one doesn't get mentioned enough. You gotta love your kids. Um, you don't always just like your my own children. I don't always have to like them, but I do love them. And when I see these young men, some of them, have come from great families, and some of them come from bad situations, and they don't have a father figure. So for me, just letting these kids know that they got somebody who loves them and cares about them genuinely is something that is important to me. And a kid that loves you knows you love them will fight for you, and that is something that I've really um, have seen. These kids they'll go out and they'll battle for you. That obviously they're doing it for their team and themselves, but if you tell them, hey, we got to do this a little bit harder, we got to work a little bit harder, they buy into that. And that's something that I will always bring with me. You got to love these kids and let them know it. You got to tell them, because some of them are not hearing it at home. Some of them maybe haven't heard it ever. And that is something that they should hear, and just know that somebody does care about them. Somebody does respect them. Somebody does value them as individuals. So I'll show you some of these young men here. All right. So this is 2017. I want you to watch the right tackle here. This is Alex. This was a kid that was a tight end all through. He played all 4 years. He did not play varsity until he was a senior. You'll notice here these skill guys, they're all pretty good. My left tackle here, he came out as a sophomore, played tight end. I got him converted over to the offensive line. And then Elijah here's the center, the one who I first got out for wrestling. But watch the right tackle. Boom. All right. Now we usually have very good skill players here. The guard here, Eugene, came out. He didn't start until he was a senior, but he ended up being one of the best pulling guards that I've had. Just ferocious, and he built that confidence and the strength that he builds in the weight room. Take a look at it from the end zone here. So this I call them my island of misfit toys that get sent over to me with the offensive line. So we got Alex. He's actually he was a really good volleyball player. This is Alonzo, who we call Blade. He's about, we'll say 5'8", 240, 250. But you can see how the gap scheme here worked in his favor. He could do some things well, and blocking down on the nose was one of them. Elijah doesn't have a great block here, but you can see, okay, like his hand a little bit lower, but bam, watch the kick out block by this pulling guard. Near foot, near shoulder, wham. That's all you need. That's a big hole. You can drive. I can run through this hole. Okay. And these are with my misfit toys. But I tell you what, loved coaching every one of these guys, and I loved every one of these guys. Okay. Got post hinge backside here. Not the best post hinge, but I show that just how well he was. So this is another young man, Logan, another kid who actually tore his ACL his sophomore year, was playing for us. He brought this up at the. I'd actually forgotten about this this story, but he wanted to be a linebacker. I want to be a linebacker. I want to be a linebacker, and he told me this story again. I did remember it after he said it, but he goes, I came up to him and I said, "Hey, Logan." And I actually had this young man in grade school, so we knew each other. I said, "Do you want to sit on the bench and play linebacker, or do you want to get in the weight room, get strong, and start on offensive line next year?" And I didn't, and I guess I just walked away after that. But it really was something that he took to heart, and really did. Now this young man right here, he was a beast. Uh, he probably could have played some high level college ball if he wanted to. But and then you got a young man who was another soccer player for me. He ties a not a great cut, but got the job done. But what I want you to watch here is Logan kicking out right here. Bam. We were able to take this 91 yards to the house. Then you got Artie here. Artie didn't start till he was a junior, and I actually repped Artie a lot at tackle. Now, what I do a lot of times, if there's guys that I think need work, you obviously put him on the scout team. I think everybody in America does that, but he was going against a kid who's at Dartmouth right now and was a beast. And he went against him every day, and he never quit. And I thought, well, he's got a chance. He got in the weight room, got big and strong, and ended up being a pretty good player for us. And you see him slip out here. This block that he makes up top is what helps spring this thing. You see, well, most of the bodies filled up. Dante's cut here isn't great, but maybe a hold by the right tackle, but probably not. D guys will say it was. But you can see just how much fun we're having. Watch the right tackle here. He did this all the time. He put his hand up in the air when we'd have big plays. They just love playing it. You see all these guys hustling down the field. They playing with energy and effort. And Deverell's back there celebrating. But so we got a kid at left tackle here. He actually our center was hurt or was really sick. He actually didn't practice at all this week. And so this first couple series, this young man ended up playing left tackle. This is against Bishop Hartley. If you guys know who Bishop Hartley is, they are no joke. They are very fast. They're very athletic. So is our tailback here, but he makes. I mean, we worked. This is the best D lineman. So I talk about scheme. So backside, what do you do against the best D lineman, especially if you're in a 4 or a 4-eye? You cut him. Boop. I mean, that's a BCS kid. We talked to Birchfield, the head coach over here, after the game, and he said, "I wasn't expecting you guys to do that." He also said, "You guys are fast. I know you're fast because we're fast." I wish I had an end zone to that one, but I don't. So again, my man Alonzo here, right guard. Kid worked hard in the weight room, gets a good, decent kickout block, wraps around. You can see here, Dante. I mean, we worked on these steps the whole time. You can see him attacking that hip and clearing that guy out of there. Now, this was a rough game for us here against Alter, but this run was pretty good. This is, I think, the last one I'll show you. Just to show you, I mean, I got two more. This kid right here, soccer player, the first year playing football. Now, on a down block, how many of your guys can chip the near hip and then climb to a guy? I mean, so this kid, you can just, I mean, watch how he plays. You can just tell how bought in he is. Bam, boom. That's beautiful. That is beautiful. Wham, right there. We talk about with our gap scheme stuff, low hand near hip. And you see when you hit somebody's hip, they go skipping across the turf. All right, this is Logan. So when you look at this line, Hardy's probably about 240. Deverell's a lot bigger. He's 260, 240. But these two guys, I bet he's 220. I bet he's 210. I mean, they're not huge, but see how we're using our scheme. And I mean, you can see them both use the same footwork. Bam. Hardy slips out of there. We call this a slip double. Normally when he's head up, he just slips out. Cuts that guy off. I mean, that's just using our scheme. This is our last one I'll show you here, but kids love to pull. Kids love to get out. You can see him communicating here, making our calls. Okay. The kids like to run. Let's see if I can speed this up for you. So you see them talking. They communicate. I let them make a lot of their own. Oops. I let them make a lot of their own calls. Sometimes they're more appropriate than others, but you see him get out and run here. Wham! Buries the kid. Then he celebrates, goes downfield. Big run for us. First game of the year against a very tough Piqua team. Look at it from the end zone. This is just a little pin and pull action. I don't run much anymore, but maybe I'll get back to it. Having a little nostalgia. Gets out and goes. This tight end was a heck of a player for us too. But this is Kobe. So, like I said, Dante got hurt early in the year. Kobe was a D lineman. He actually ended up having a ton of injuries. Feel bad for the kid, but he would have started for us. I mean, he's not huge, but you see him get out and run, get out and play. He don't stop. He don't block anybody, but he also doesn't stop. So you appreciate that. Oh, last one. This was this year in our playoff game. I'll say playoff game with an asterisk because we only had a couple wins coming into it. But these young men, I can tell you right here, our center is a senior. Every other one of these young men is a sophomore. So, and they're all bought in, and they're not huge. John is probably 220. I bet he's 210, 210. You see him pulling through here. And this was the run that Brooks out. Freshman running back too. I don't have a great end zone for you, but I'll give you this look at it. But 4 sophomores on the O line. John, number 72, is one of our heavyweight wrestler right now. But you can see, I mean, these two guys aren't huge, but they're able to work the scheme they want. Running back makes a good cut. Linebacker misfits, and he makes a play. You can just see the excitement there. So just want to share some of that with you. Again, it's not cool. You can make it cool, at least with each other. Pancake, just celebrating hits. I'll have kids text me or email me their what plays they think they got pancakes on, and I'll look at it and make determinations. Probably going to set up some type of system for that this year, but who's the most physical, who gets the flag at the going in, some small stuff, little making shirts for the guys. We found some cheap shirts, got them printed up. Me and another friend split the bill, gave these kids some shirts. So I've done this in the past. Sometimes you can get people to sponsor shirts. So if you want to do that, a friend of mine, cousin owned a pizza chain, and kids love to eat pizza. So this was way back, but hey, will you sponsor these shirts? Yeah. Pizza Ranch on the back. There you go. So create that buy-in, create those kids, get them believing. They don't have to be big, but they do got to be strong. So look, those kids that show up, they might not fit into some other place. Find a spot for them on the offensive line. Get them into that club. Get them bought in with that. Find a scheme that you believe in, coach it up, and get those kids on board with it. Again, I'm a big fan of wrestling. Get those kids wrestling and love them. That's the biggest thing is love them. Let them know you love.